Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to another Twins Talk here. And today we are going to be talking about a very, very important question. With all the trades that have already happened and probably more to come, we need to figure out who Minnesota is going to put at their leadoff spot, because we've had some problems over this offseason trying to readjust with, like I said, all the trades, all the retirements, all the see you later, Joe Mauer. But let's jump right into it. I got a bunch of information to talk about today, so let's go. First of all, we lost three pretty impactful guys that all played the leadoff position. Dozier started earlier in the season, about halfway through. Maybe by the time we were thinking about trading him, maybe a little bit earlier, Joe Mauer started taking the leadoff spot, and he was a fantastic leadoff hitter. Not your average leadoff hitter. You know, he didn't have that much speed, but he got on base. And that is what I prefer as a leadoff hitter over anybody else, is if you get on base, you deserve that spot. And also, Robbie Grossman retired this last off season, so we will not have him on the roster anymore, which makes sense why we'd go pick up Cruz or somebody else, I guess. Plus, it's a power bat. It all makes sense. But let's talk about this. So we lost three guys who all, we're at the leadoff spot one point or another for quite a bit of the season. And now we have a team that is all great. Like, they all have their own, talents and their own strengths, like I've talked about yesterday's video. However, none of them really have that leadoff spot, I would say, locked up. So let's go through what I think could be the lineup. We have Mitch Garver at catcher. I know Ostadillo is a backup catcher, and he was working the last bit of the last part of the season. I think he gets put on the bench just so we can work out a little bit more. However, if he would like to play third and move Sano over to first, I really like that idea. But right now I have Mitch Garver at catcher, Tyler Austin at first, because we really don't have a first baseman anymore. Jonathan Scope at second. Not really sure what happened to Logan Forsythe, but he is no longer on the roster. Then Miguel Sano at third. Polanco at short. Eddie Rosario in left. Jake Cave in center. Max Kepler in right. And then, of course, Nelson Cruz DHing. So right away, the only maybe two or three people that I could see leading off would be Polanco, Rosario, or Jake Cave. And here's why. Rosario should have been an all-star last year, and his stats, I think they prove it. He had 24 home runs, 77 RBIs. It's probably a little bit lower, but his average it ended up being 288. And he was around that 300 mark all season. He gets on base. His OBP is 323, which means he's getting on base at least a third of the time. That makes a lot of sense to me, except I don't like him as a leadoff hitter. I really like him in the 2 spot because of his, ability to move runners and his ability to move the ball around the field. I really like him in the 2 spot. However, with Dozier not being on base or Mauer not being on base, it doesn't really look like they have that option but to move him up to first. Now, however, that's scenario 1. Scenario 2 would be to have Rosario 1, Jake Cave 2, or flip them. And that's because Jake Cave came on the season last year after Byron Buxton got hurt, and he did pretty good. He had 45 RBIs, 13 home runs, and his on-base percentage was, again, .313 with a batting average of .265. This guy, how many games did he play? 91. So he was in there for quite a bit of the season. But I think that's a solid first year. He's a great defensive player. He is a great offensive player. He can move the ball around a little bit. And it makes sense to put him at the top of the lineup. However, the only problem I have with that is you have Eddie Rosario and Jake Cave both being left-handed. And that could be a problem, if you have a starting left-handed pitcher. The only thing is, they did use, besides flipping in Dozier there every once in a while, they used Mauer and Rosario 1-2 during this part of the season. And then they did use Dozier at the 2, and they really couldn't figure something out. But I really like those two guys up at the top. if that is not the option, I really like Polanco. I forgot to pull up Polanco's stats, but if you have Rosario at 1 and Polanco at 2, he did have a suspension, so his stats are going to be lower anyways for half the season. But if you have Rosario at 1 and Polanco at 2, that mixes in a little bit more him being a switch hitter. I know he was pretty good from the left side. So, you know, if it goes lefty and Rosario, Polanco as a switch hitter, that opens the door for either a lefty or a righty. And, of course, who are you going to put in the 3 spot? Nelson Cruz. So, right now, that would be my sort of, let's do this. Eddie Rosario at the 1. That opens up a spot for either Jake Cave or Polanco. But I would like Polanco there probably a little bit more since he's the switch hitter. And then Nelson Cruz, number 3, and then you can go from there with Sano, Scope if he gets hot. You know, Mitch Garver could have a good season. Tyler Austin, Max Kepler probably not going to be at the 4, but you have spots available for Sano, Tyler Austin. The only thing is they're all right-handed. They're all power bats. What can you do? Also, I couldn't find Logan Morrison on the roster either, which is a little bit of a surprise. Like, I haven't really focused much on, I think we traded him because we got CJ Cron, which I think is a dumb idea, but I haven't been paying attention, obviously, because Logan Forsythe and Logan Morrison are gone, or at least not on the roster as of now, the active roster. So that is what I'm thinking for the number 1, 2, and 3 spot. And obviously you can mix it up. If you do want Jake Cave at the leadoff spot, put Polanco at 2, or even Scope at 2. You're allowing for a left-handed leadoff batter. I just don't think you can put Scope, Mitch Garver. I guess those are really the only 2 non-power guys you would put at the leadoff spot. Because if you look at their stats, here's Scope. He played in 131 games, both with Milwaukee and Baltimore. He ended up with 61 RBIs, 21 home runs. Well, that's not bad. It's a little bit less than Eddie Rosario, and I just don't see him having that good of a spot in the leadoff spot with a batting average of under 250 and an OBP of less than 300. Mitch Garver, basically the same thing. While he's improving his stats and all that, his OBP is 335. I did not know that. That's pretty impressive. But he only had, 7 home runs and 45 RBIs. Now, he was lower in the batting order anyway, so if he can get on base, that might be an option if you do want to put a right-handed batter at the top of the lineup. But I just don't see it. Rather, you have, Eddie Rosario and then Polanco, or Jake Cave, then Eddie Rosario, or Jake Cave and then Polanco. But if there is a left-handed pitcher and you don't want to put Rosario out there first, Polanco makes the most sense to be a switch hitter as well. And then you go Rosario, and again, you've basically just flipped up. That allows for a right-handed 3, 4, 5. The other talk is that you could put, well, do you want to put a power hitter at the 1 spot? Now, I know Eddie Rosario is kind of a power hitter. He doesn't hit for power, but he gets home runs. The option would be, do you want to put a Miguel Sano or Nelson Cruz at the number 1? Probably not, just because they're going to strike out. You don't want to start the game off with 1 out, more times than not. I guess we can look at their on-base percentage stats. Miguel Sano, he had a struggling year. Hopefully he gets back, to health and everything. He had 13 home runs, 41 RBIs. His batting percentage was under 200, and his OBP was 281. That's not great. 2018 for Nelson Cruz, his OBP was 342 with a 256 batting average. He had 97 RBIs and 37 home runs. That's just not a leadoff hitter spot, though. That's a 3-4 hitter. And he's going to do a good job in that spot if he doesn't choke like Logan Morrison. The only other thing that I would present as an idea is let's call up Nick Gordon, or hopefully Byron Buxton gets healthy. So Nick Gordon is a left-handed batter. It's going to help him. get to the first base a little bit faster, and he's already super, super fast. But, that takes away the spot from, I guess second base being Scope. And I don't think he's ready to come up anyways. And that just, it kind of hurts the Twins' leadoff spot because they already have, Eddie Rosario could be a leadoff spot, and he's left-handed. Jake Cave could be a leadoff spot. I guess Max Kepler, maybe, but we didn't talk about him. I don't really want to talk about him because he's more of a, lower middle of the lineup guy. But if you're looking at Polanco, Cave, and Rosario, they could all bat left-handed. And to put another guy in there, which would be the leadoff guy, you're just trying to push the other left-handed batters down because you want to have, lefty-righty matchups. You don't want to go left, 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 left down your lineup. The other option is, of course, Byron Buxton, and he would probably take the spot of Jake Cave. Unfortunately, because we'd already have Nelson Cruz and then two other good outfielders. I mean, you can give one the day off, but ultimately, you want your same guys to play. Byron Buxton, one of the fastest, if not the fastest guy in the MLB. If he could get healthy and figure out how to drag bunt or just put the ball up the middle, I know he's been working on it besides his injury, but if he could do that, I don't see why we wouldn't put him at the leadoff spot. Obviously, that makes sense, but since he's not active on the roster right now, I can't really, make that assumption. So, just to recap, what I would like to see the Twins do is probably put either Jake Cave or Eddie Rosario at the 1 spot. I like Cave a little bit more, but Eddie Rosario has the better numbers. And then Polanco at 2, which you're able to use as a switch hitter. He's fast as well. He can bunt. Use that as your 2 hitter to move him up. And then, of course, you have Sano, Cruz, Austin at first base, third base, these power guys and the DH. But they are able to get them home, hit home runs, score in the first inning. So that is my opinion on the leadoff hitter. Of course, if we could get Nick Gordon or Buxton or even Andrianza a little bit, better with the bat or maybe ready for the MLB, that might be an option. We can talk about that in another episode if it comes to that. But right now, I don't see them putting anyone but Rosario or Cave up there right now with Polanco at the 2, and then, of course, Cruz or Sano, and then the other one at the 4 right now. So that is my opinion, guys. Let me know what you think about your opinion on the leadoff hitter from Minnesota, what they should do, if they should trade anybody, maybe another first baseman or whatever. Let me know about what you're thinking in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and, of course, have a happy new year, and we'll see you tomorrow.